Today on With the First Pick, we're talking running back rankings, and that means one thing, Rick. We got our guy Emory Hunt here. In case you missed it yesterday, he's giving you the two raises the roofs, Emory. If you're listening to the podcast, and he's wearing his Gayabara, is that what you got on today,
Yeah,
Rick? Your shirt?
yeah. Today's Guy Bart. Tomorrow's the next one will be Island Day. So
All
I got
right.
I got all these fancy shirts that I've accumulated over the years. Emery, just so you know, that I break out this time of year through March and April.
His celebration, Emory. How you doing, Emory?
I'm doing fine, man. I'm in the depths of this draft guide I'm working on. So, just prospect after prospect. So, I mean, ask me anything up until defensive tackles.
By the way, Rick, Emory's working through his draft guide, which is literally the most extensive draft guide you can get on planet Earth. It'll be over 1,000 guys. So NFL guys for sure. And then if you're the fan of the CFL or any other league on planet Earth, Emory will have you covered by the time he's all said and done. So you think I work hard, Rick? And I know you don't. Emory actually works a little harder. So look for the
that's a no-brainer. Yeah, I know that. So
But the great thing about Emory is he mixes things up. We had him on the podcast at the Combine in Indianapolis. And, of course, he's our go-to guy for small school prospects. And we're going to talk running backs here because Emory is our running back for With the First Pick and CBS Sports HQ. And last year, here was our running back rankings. And, Rick, you and I were pretty much on the same page. Bijan, Jameer, Gibbs. You had Devon Achane as your running back 3, Rick. You hit that one pretty good. I had Roschon Johnson, not so good. I had Achane as my running back 4. Rick, you had Zach Charbonnet as your running back 4. It's like you've been evaluating players before. And then you had Roschon 5. And finally, I had Tyjae Spears 5. Emory had Jameer Gibbs first. And someone in the Detroit Lions organization agreed with Emory. They took Jameer Bijan second. And then things get a little saucy here, Rick. Deuce Vaughn, all 112 pounds of him, was Emory's running back 3. Tyjae Spears as well as 4. And then Keaton Mitchell, undrafted free agent who had a good season out of ECU until he tore his ACL. But he was a little spark plug for ECU as well. And at the time, I think we gave Emory a hard time. So just keep that in mind, Rick, as we go through our top 5 this time around. Because Emory got
as a supporting actor on this show, and my job is to give people a hard time when they come on the show. But I don't Emory, I just gotta have to say, when poor Trey Benson was on the set and he had his knee totally blown out, every ligament and every hamstring, everything came total apart. And Emory was on the set. Hey, I had a couple ACLs myself. I know how it is to come back from that.
Hey, Emory, there's nothing wrong with that. Last year when I was talking to Hendon Hooker, the first thing I said to him, hey, man, I tore my ACL too. See, ACL brothers got to stick together. Rick thought that was stupid too, but that's okay.
Sometimes you just lose track of what's going on. Even Pete reminded me how I dropped the ball on Jonathan Brooks. I completely just forgot he tore his ACL and didn't bring it up. So I probably was over the top conscious of the ACL and other ligaments when I got to talk to Benson.
Yeah. Well,
by the way, Rick, we're all about Bryce Young. Emory's all about running backs. So he gets starstruck when he sees the running backs. We get starstruck when we see Bryce Young. I don't know which is worse. So look, before we get started on this list, I'm just going to quickly over the free agents who have signed. And Rick, what year is this where running backs and linebackers are guys getting signed in day 1 and day 2 of free agency? Is this 1989? What's going on?
Because it was such a unique running back class this year. And then I think as front offices do their planning going into the combine, they have their free agent meetings and then they have their draft meetings. And you see that this is probably not the strongest of draft classes for the running back position. No first rounders, in my opinion. I mean, Emory, you may have Frank Gore Jr. or somebody up there in the first. Who knows? We'll find out as the podcast continues. But I would say I didn't see any first round type running backs. And now you're seeing the Josh Jacobs of the world, the Saquon Barkleys of the world, guys that are Pro Bowl caliber runners, and teams are starting to fill those needs. So when you see Saquon Barkley go to Philadelphia, to me, that's telling me they want to take some pressure off of Jalen Hurts where he doesn't have to throw the ball 30 or 40 times a game. Josh Jacobs goes to Green Bay, and then all of a sudden Aaron Jones gets signed by Minnesota. It's almost like, what do you guys do down there in Louisiana? or wherever the hell you're at, school you went to, the square dance thing. You just like change partners round and round and keep you go, and then you end up. It's just like everybody's just changing running backs. See if it's better for their team. So
is that a thing for the Raging Cajuns, Emory, dancing in clogs?
Yeah, but y'all have to remember, I am from the state of New Orleans. Outside of that is the state of Louisiana. So yes, I'm pretty sure they do square dance and they eat all kind of amphibians out there outside of the state of Louisiana, outside of the state of New Orleans. In definitely where I went to school, for sure, they were square dance. Matter of fact, they were probably square dancing the Zydeco music as well.
Oh, now you're out of my league here. But right. So Rick, you mentioned Josh Jacobs in Green Bay. Saquon went to Philly. I think Debo's excited about that. Tony Pollard went to Tennessee. And of course, we saw Derrick Henry go to the Ravens. Joe Mixon got traded to Houston. You mentioned Aaron Jones going to Minnesota. So name after name, Austin Eckler going to Washington. So that's going to affect how this draft class works out running back wise, but that's not going to affect what we're talking about here. So let's get started at the top. Emory, you're the guest. You get to go first.
Hey, Ryan,
yeah.
Can I interrupt you? We didn't do our spiel.
Oh, yeah. Do you? Okay. I don't have my board because I'm traveling. So I'm going to take it on. I'm going to trust you that you know. Rick,
Emory,
how many days until?
There are 44 days until the 2024 NFL draft. And do you know anyone famous who wore the jersey number 44?
Oh,
Emory knows. Yeah,
Chuck Foreman. How about that?
Wow.
Look at it. And it's relevant to Rick in Minnesota, too.
Yep. There was another, I believe, who was the running back for the Cleveland Browns? Did he not wear number 44?
Oh, was that my guy from Syracuse?
Ernest Biner?
No.
Kelly. Syracuse.
Oh, who? Leroy Kelly. Yeah, from Morgan State.
Leroy Kelly.
What about the running back? What about the running back from Washington in the 80s?
Oh, you talking about John Riggins?
Where'd John Riggins go to college, Rick?
Ooh, I wasn't scouting.
That's a deep cut.
Jay
Kansas.
He was Kansas. He was a sprinter.
He was?
Yeah, he ran on the track team. I think he ran like the 200.
With that afro? He must have been fast.
Yeah, he was fast as hell.
All right, let's get going here.
Shout out to Ernie Davis, too, was with the Browns as well.
Ernie Davis. Thank you. Yeah, Ernie Davis, I should have known because the Syracuse field is named after Ernie Davis. That's on me. All right, our consensus rankings. Rick, you and I are carrying the load here because Emory got crazy on us at the top. Jonathan Brooks has the ACL, tore his ACL in November. He's probably Rick and I. You and I agree that he's running back one, but our guy Emory going in a different direction. Who's your running back one, Emory?
I like Braylon Allen, and first of all, Rick is absolutely right. The highest running back grade I have is a 79, so there's no 80s and above in this year's class. Last year, I think I had 3 or 4, maybe even 5 guys. So that tells you, this is why we're seeing a lot of running back movement in free agency. But Braylon, to me, is the best of the bunch. It's a combination of his skills and his age, because he's 13 years old now. Like, he started college at a young age. And so he still has a lot of room to get better and grow and continue to really evolve his game. So I like him as my RB1.
So Rick and I consensus rank have him RB2 when we have everyone put all 3 of our grades together. Rick, you had him 4, I had him 5, and then Emory dragged him up there with his number 1 overall ranking. But Rick, you and I are in the Jonathan Brooks conversation, and he's not on Emory's list. But Rick, I'll come to you first. How concerned are you about the ACL if you're drafting this young man? And then how high is he going to get drafted knowing that he's had the injury that he'll be recovering from since last November?
Yeah, I don't think people are as concerned the way they're repairing ACLs now, especially at the position. And I was around the running back, and no one has ever been like this, where Adrian Peterson tore his ACL, and within 8 months he ran for 2,000 yards and set an NFL record. So, but he was a freak of nature. But this kid, I really liked his style. I think he's a very fluid runner, excellent vision, burst, always under control, and then has that second gear. Once he gets to the open field, he can catch the ball out of the backfield. I don't think he's as dynamic as Bijan Robinson. He's not as powerful as Roschon Johnson, but he is a smoother mover to me than Roschon Johnson. So he's kind of a combination between the two. not as elite as Bijan, and a little smoother than Roshan.
So had he not tore his ACL, is he sneaking into the first round or still probably not?
No, I think he's a second-round talent all the way.
Okay. Do you have a comp for him? I have one, but it'll probably make you angry.
I saw a little Jamal Charles in him.
Boy. Okay. That's high praise. University of Texas link there. Do you have one, Emory, before I get it? Rick
Yeah,
angry?
he reminds me a lot of Rashad White with the Bucks. And Rashad White was a guy that I compared to Harvey Williams. You know, they are just, to Rick's point, they're kind of smooth runners. They run a little tall. They glide a little bit. So Rashad White was a comp for me for Brooks.
All right. I won't give you my comp. Those are two good comps. Rick, you mentioned second round. All right. You ready?
This is the highlight of the show, his comps.
All right. Here we go. Miles Sanders.
Oh, God. Nah.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Emory. Well, you asked for it. You got it.
They ain't bad, you know.
That's horrible.
Thank you, Emory. So a year ago, I thought that Rashawn Johnson had a chance to be a day 2 guy. He ended up going in the 4th round, I believe. Any chance that we see Jonathan Brooks slipping to day 3 because all these running backs have been signed already?
The only reason he would is if people were concerned about the ACL, but coming out medically from the combine, if it was a solid repair, I don't see him getting out on Friday. I think he's too talented. And they said he'll be ready by training camp. So if someone feels comfortable with that and comfortable with him ready to go at training camp, I think he'll go. I thought he would go in the 2nd for sure. He may slip to the 3rd because of the ACL, but I see him still as a Friday talent.
So, yeah, that's like 8.5, 9 months, Emory, which is a pretty quick turnaround for an ACL. But he's a little younger than we are, so he might recover a little quicker than we do. Emory, do you have any team
around great? He was walking around great at the combine. That's why I just slipped my mind. I forgot he tore his ACL. That's how great he was moving.
Terrible reporter.
And you forgot that he was a running back coming out this year. You would have had him at least in the top 5, I would think.
Yeah, why is he not in your top 5?
Well, to me, there's Rick kind of touched on it. I don't think he's as strong of a runner. He gets chopped down a lot, man. Like it's almost like he has a balance issue. Doesn't have that lateral agility. And so I think he does need to get stronger. I kind of felt like Baxter was the better back, watching Texas. And I just feel like he's more of a RB2 than a lead dog, in my opinion.
Rick, any good team fits that come off the top of your head? Or is this going to be, are we in the running back by committee part of the NFL experience?
All right. I have a team fit.
All right.
The Dallas Cowboys. They
needed running back.
They only have Deuce Vaughn. Pollard's gone. Dowdell maybe
Dowdell's
out. Dowdell's out, or he's not signed anywhere. So Dallas definitely needs a running back. They're not going to take any in the 1st round. They have to take an offensive lineman. But I think on Friday, and he's right down the street from him, that would be a really good fit for the Cowboys.
So wait, as we speak right now, one of my top 5 backs is RB1 in Dallas.
That's by default.
It still counts.
$1,000 on this show.
Oh my God!
Ryan owes me $1,000 bills from all the dollar bills he's lost. Deuce Vaughn will not be running back.
If they had to play an emergency game today, Rick, Deuce Vaughn is starting.
I was so desperately hoping that Deuce Vaughn is the starting running back for the Cowboys. All right. So, Rick, Braylon Allen, was your running back 4. He was my running back 5. Emory brought his average up to 2nd overall in our consensus ranking. So I'll defer to you. Big back. I don't think he ran at the combine. But I thought he was leaving a lot of guys in the dust when we saw him play in the season once he got through the 1st level to the 2nd, 3rd level.
Yeah, no, I think this guy is a very good athlete for his size. I think that he's more of a weaver than a stop-start guy, just like a lot of these running backs are. I thought he just had okay hands out of the backfield. He's not as explosive after he catches the ball. I didn't see any really explosive plays. And the reason I think is these big backs aren't these quick 0 to 60 type guys, 60 miles an hour type guys. They take a while to build up their speed. So I didn't see him as a huge factor in the passing game, although Wisconsin's passing game is, you don't write home to your mother about, I would say. I just didn't see he was really elusive. I think he's going to try to power through and try to avoid you at the second level. And I just think for a bigger back, he is good. I just didn't see anything unique other than his size.
Emory, do you have a pro comp for him?
Corey Dillon. He reminds me a lot of Dillon.
Ooh.
Just you know, and to Rick's point, I also felt like, you know, he was a little bit tight-hipped, kind of stops his feet to change direction. So he is more of a weaver. He's not overly shifty, but for whatever reason, he breaks long runs. He has a smooth stride, and whoever's the strength and conditioning coach, I don't know if it's the same guy at Wisconsin, but they always have explosive athletes, and he's someone that gets out of the gate, he can go. So, you know, he's going to break a lot of runs. And I just felt like Corey Dillon was the same way when he was coming out of Washington. You're watching him, you're like, you know, there's something about him. Just I don't know what it is, but then you consistently watch it, like, man, this dude actually got the goods. And obviously, he's not as fluid of a runner as Dillon, and you know, Dillon hit the ground running as a rookie with Cincinnati. But I do feel like when he at his pro day, when he runs, he probably won't be 240. He's probably gonna get down to like 230, maybe. He's gonna run real fast. I think he can keep 230, and he'll start to look like a little bit like Corey Dillon. But I thought his style was more Corey Dillon than anything.
These type of backs, in my opinion, the more touches they get, the more productive they are. They have to get the carries. It's not a guy that's going to come off and be an explosive playmaker with 5 or 6 carries. I mean, to me, these are more old school, if that makes sense, where you get 15, 20 touches a game. Eventually, they start wearing the defenses down just because of their size and their physicality. But I just think he's more of a build-up speed guy. And if someone takes him, in order for him to be productive, he may hit a couple of singles and doubles, and eventually he's going to hit a triple or a home run, but it takes singles and doubles first before he just comes out the gate with a home run type run.
And Rick, A.J. Dillon, that's your comp, if I recall correctly. Is that
Mine
right?
was A.J. Dillon, yeah, who actually ran fast at the combine, faster than I thought he ran faster than he played, and this kid may be in the same boat. That's why I thought that this kid's probably going to run faster than what I see his play speed on tape.
So if he runs 4.55, are you taking him day 2?
I think he's a third rounder, in my opinion, third rounder.
Okay.
If he runs slow, then he's going to go on Saturday.
What do you think, Emory? If he runs 4.55, for example?
Dillon, whatever Dillon ran, he ran at 250 too.
He ran 4.4s, I think, if I recall.
And so Dillon was a bigger back than Allen. I think if Allen runs 4.5, he definitely is going second round. But it will take a team that's looking for Dallas will be a good spot for him too. I mean, he's a pace setter.
Tennessee,
you know, anybody that needs a pace setter at running back, you know, he's the guy. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's something to keep in it. The Giants, they need a pace setter, right? So be interested to see where he ends up, but it has to be a specific spot.
I mean, the Giants have Devin Singletary after losing Saquon. Titans signed Tony Pollard after losing Derrick Henry, and now they have Tyjae Spears. They feel like similar type players, at least in their size. So if you're looking for a big change of pace back, those teams make some sense. All right, next up
is a break.
Oh, look at that. Debo out of nowhere. All right, let's take a come back. We'll hit our running backs 3 through 5 right after this.
It's time for the madness.
And CBS Sports HQ has your wall-to-wall NCAA tournament coverage. We got your game highlights, expert analysis, and insights all the way to the Final Four. Start and end your March Madness coverage with CBS Sports HQ.
All right. Number 3 on the consensus rankings is Jalen Wright. But once again, Rick, Emory doesn't have Jalen Wright on his top 5. You have Jalen number 2. I have Jalen number 3. Jalen was incredibly explosive at the combine. He ran in the 4.3s, the 4.39 to be exact. So, Rick, I'll come to you first. And you've been talking about Jalen for a few weeks. We had Mike Renner on the show before the combine, or before the combine after the Senior Bowl, and he was talking up Jalen Wright for his explosiveness, and that played out in Indy.
Yeah, Debo, why don't you go get a Snickers in next break? You're kind of grouchy today.
Can you imagine Rick telling somebody they're grouchy? He's got a lot on his plate, Rick.
Yeah, I really like Jalen Wright. I think this guy may have the biggest upside out of them all. He was in a rotation at Tennessee. I thought this guy was an explosive playmaker. I think he has vision in line. He has speed to take it the distance. He led the FBS, I think 25% of his touches, what I saw, some stat that was for plus 10-yard runs, which led all FBS running backs. I saw him live play against Alabama. Didn't have a big impact, caught a lot of balls late in the game on checkdowns, and I think he can be an effective pass catcher out of the backfield. And I think once he gets in space, he has the juice to take it the distance. I think the biggest thing is in pass pro. When I watched him, he has a tendency, he's more than willing to set up there and put his face in a linebacker. It's just a little delayed on him identifying where the heck the linebacker's coming from. And sometimes he'll get tied up that way. But I think with this kid, he doesn't have a lot of mileage on him. His explosiveness as an athlete, all of the big runs that I've seen, I think this guy is going to be a really good running back at the next level. And I think he has the most upside out of anyone we talked about.
And by the way, I should note that Trey Benson is tied with Jalen Wright for third overall in our consensus rankings. Again, Emory doesn't have Trey Benson in his top 5 either. But in terms of when Debo did the with the first pick math, Trey and Jalen were tied, and we'll get to Trey in a second. But Rick, you mentioned, so he's 5'10 and a half, about 210 pounds. Number one, is that big enough? And number two, it sounds like he's only a 2 down back if he's struggling in pass protection, at least in terms of identifying the right guy to block, right?
Yeah, that's the thing that teams are going to be trying to figure out in these meetings. It's not the willingness, it's not the ability to do. It's is he able to identify who he has to pick up in pass pro. So if they feel comfortable with that, I just think he's too good of a back to pass up as a, combination back with whoever you have in the backfield. But this guy is going to put points on the board for your team because of his explosiveness.
All right, Emory, you had Marshawn Lloyd at USC and then Isaac Davis out of South Dakota?
South Dakota State.
South Dakota State. As your 2 and 3. So let's talk a little bit about Jalen Wright and Trey, and then we'll get to your guys there. We didn't talk to Jalen at the combine. You did get an opportunity to talk to Trey Benson. He's a little older. He's had the serious knee injury, transfer from Oregon. Any concerns about that as a former running back who's had to battle through knee injuries?
Everyone, it's an individual based thing. So, and really it's about how comfortable you feel. The doctors say, hey, you're cleared, but everybody's kind of like, yeah, I don't feel right. You know what I'm saying? What if I get hit? Or what if I beat the cut again? So as soon as you get over that in your head, you're ready to go. So it all depends on the individual player of when they get over that hump. And for Benson, I just feel like we saw, this year that he was back to his explosive self. He's making decisions behind the line of scrimmage and finding a hole and accelerating through. And talking to him, he sounded like he was overcome. He had overcome that mental hurdle that needs to happen and is not worried about it. He was still being a bruiser as well. So, this is someone that I feel like is going to be good to go, because the injury happened. We saw that with Nick Chubb. We've seen it with other backs that they've had a high school injury, like a knee injury that we find out during the process of why he tore his ACL in high school. And knock on wood, you see that a lot with Georgia backs too. Like a lot of these guys have torn their ACL in high school or their freshman year when they get on campus, and then they just move on from there. So I'm not worried about it as much, but you're glad that he was able to work out, able to run, maybe do things this year to kind of show you that he's back to form.
All right, Rick, we got any comps for Jalen?
Yeah.
Wright?
Yeah. Oh, Jalen Wright?
Yeah.
Okay. You ready for this one?
No.
Melvin Gordon.
Huh.
Without the fumbles.
I don't even hate that.
That's not
That's
bad.
pretty good.
We're thinking the same plane.
What'd you have, Emory?
Chuba Hubbard. Speed guy, one cut, acceleration, needs a hole, but if he gets one, he can burst through it and he can score. Chuba had like a zillion yards at Oklahoma State too. A lot of these runs that we saw Jalen Wright score on too.
Right. And once you get in the open field, that's a wrap. So we're talking about these guys. They all feel like day two guys, but some of these guys are going to slip, it feels like. Does Trey Benson have a chance to slip because of the injuries and maybe the age, Rick?
Maybe, but when he went out and busted, I didn't think it was going to run in the 4.3s, but he did.
Yeah.
There's no question he's over the knee injury when you watch how violent this kid plays on tape. If you watch the LSU game, I was like, who in the hell is this kid in the opener? And then he just has explosive plays. I think that he has a nose for the end zone. Anytime he's near the goal line, he's scoring. He just has that knack for squeezing through or getting into the end zone no matter what he has to do. And the thing that really stuck out to me that I don't think he gets enough credit for was his receiving skills out of the backfield. Go back and watch the Clemson game. I mean, he caught a wheel route out of the backfield that receivers can't catch. So I think this guy, if he didn't have the knee injury and the age, he would probably have been right up there close to my number one running back. But with those two nicks against him, I put him down a little bit. But I think this kid is a really good football player.
I will say this.
I do too.
I do have Benson graded ahead of Brooks.
Okay. But still not top five, interestingly enough.
Still not top five.
Hell, there's a cluster, man. Like a lot of guys got the same grade. It's a cluster of guys.
You gotta make decisions, Emory.
I'm trying to get better at that, man.
Speaking of cluster, you want to hear my comp for Trey Benson?
Oh God,
Bo Jackson,
Jim Brown. He's tough. He's fast. He's good hands. He's actually surprisingly tough between the tackles. Zach Charbonnet.
That's good. Yeah.
I gotta go look him up. Is he playing in the league still?
Zach Charbonnet. He was your top 5 last year. He had a good season. We talked about him during the fall.
I know.
You didn't hate it.
He is more explosive than Zach Charbonnet.
Yeah. Okay. No, he is.
So he's faster than
Zach.
Zach.
It's hard to.
I went Javonte Williams.
Zach.
Who?
Javonte Williams.
Okay, I could see Javonte Williams.
Oh, Rick, shut up. Quit making Emory feel good about it.
You know who I liked a lot last year and reminded me some of?
Who?
Because of the violence he runs with? Tank Bigsby.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, that's
didn't get to do a whole lot in Jacksonville, but big coming out of Auburn. So,
Big
Rick,
back.
I don't know if you got a chance. Did you get a chance to watch Isaiah Davis, Rick, out of South Dakota State?
I did. I put on a couple tapes on him early.
So I watched him before the combine, and I just went back and looked at my notes. I like this guy a lot, and he feels like he could be in the same conversation. If you're looking for a big back as Braylon Allen, if Braylon Allen's off the board, maybe you go with Isaiah Davis. I don't think he was great in pass protection. Go ahead, Rick. You can go ahead, and then Emory can talk him up because Emory had him in his top 5. What were your concerns with him?
No, my biggest concern is the overall speed. I think he has really good vision. He has contact balance. He reminds me of the old tailbacks that can run between the tackles. I don't think he's going to have the speed to plant and bounce it outside. He's not going to run out angles at the second level. He's going to get his yards trying to run through people. I don't know if I've seen enough in pass protection or is a receiver out of the backfield. To me, he's an old school hammerhead.
Okay. He ran a 4.57, and Emory, you had him as your running back 3 behind Braylon and Marshawn Lloyd at USC.
Yeah, I've seen a ton of him because I cover FCS football, and what impressed me initially was back when they had Pierre Strong and they made that run to the national championship game against Sam Houston. This was the backup, and I was like, man, this backup is nice. He has good footwork, good vision. He knows how to finish runs, and he has a great sense of timing of, man, he need a big play, and he's the one that ends up making the play, whether it's as a receiver or a runner. But here's the funny part. Like, before he ran the 4.7, you saw him break long runs and whatnot, and my comp for him is someone who actually ran fast but kind of feel like the same way to me, and I compared him to Robert Smith, and Smith was a little bit taller, like 6'2", 220. But just a nice
Rick's
good
making a
footwork.
face, Emory.
Because Robert Smith was a sprinter. You know what I'm saying? So, but I like Robert Smith as the comp for Davis. And funny, Davis can catch. But I just like to see him, explode through the contact. Sometimes you get these backs, especially nowadays, I guess because the styles have changed. But a lot of backs tend to like big, just accept the contact and then they'll go down. If they break it, cool. If they don't, cool. But, I need him to run through that because, a lot of times he could be breaking these tackles, but he doesn't. He's a little bit tight hip from an athleticism perspective, which probably explains the 4.7. But I do like him. The 4.57. 4.57.
Yeah, well, we'll give him some credit.
Yeah, geez, Emory.
He's going to make a living between the tackles because he ain't going to get outside the tackle box.
What about
Yeah,
how much, Rick, how much do you guys put on it seems like a narrative-based thing, but there is something to guys that know when to make the big play. How do you guys factor that in?
If they make big plays, that's a part of it. You want guys that are going to, all I look at is regardless, can they put points on the board for you?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if this kid, is he a 2 or a 3, maybe makes it on special teams. To me, he was, and maybe, like those 4-minute offense running backs where you're trying to grind the clock out, and he's going to get you a lot of singles and doubles to keep the chains moving. Chain mover. Workhorse. I'm trying to come up with all these descriptions.
Meet the expectations runner.
Yeah. Ground pounder.
Oh, geez. All right, we get it. So, are you drafting him, Rick?
I think he's a Saturday guy if you do take a shot on him.
Okay, and how high would you be willing to take him, Emory?
Judging by where I have him graded, probably in that late second round, third round range. Good thing for him, though, he does have kickoff return experience. That's what I do like about South Dakota State. They cross train their backs. They return kicks. If old school way, you know what I'm saying? Tailbacks used to have to get back there and return kicks. And he did that early in his career.
Hey, yeah. I mean, look, that's the whole point.
Spot belt high tops to the league too.
And double up on your thigh
next
pads
up,
too.
Oh yeah, don't wear shorts, whatever you do. Double up on the thigh pads and make sure the knee pads are in the pants because Rick will have words with you. All right, next up, and these two young men tied for 5th. Michigan's Blake Corum and the aforementioned Marshawn Lloyd out of USC. Rick, I'll come to you for Blake, and then Emory can talk about Marshawn because he had him pretty high on his list. We talked to Blake at the Combine. He couldn't say enough good things about his experience at Michigan. It helps winning a national title. He loved Harbaugh. He loved J.J. McCarthy. But I'll give you my comp, and then you can make a face and go on to tell me what you think about that. He's a little better version of Chase Brown, who's RB1 right now in Cincinnati.
Yeah, I don't think Chase Brown was as shifty as he is. So
yeah, I agree with that.
I'll give you a comp, and you'll be happy with my comp. But I'm going to hold for a second.
Okay. Build a suspense.
You will hear my comp?
Go ahead. You give me your comp.
Jalen Warren.
Yeah.
I don't hate that. What's wrong with that?
That's okay, but my comp's the best comp.
Okay. All right. Save it for last. Tell us your story first, and then give us the comp.
All right. This guy is a short, compact, maybe the best vision in between the tackles out of all these dudes, that he can start and stop on a dime. He can squeeze through a tight crease. He's elusive at the second level, at the linebacker level, where his issue is he levels off his speed once he gets to the secondary, and I've seen him get gunned down. This guy, I don't know about his hands. I don't know about his pass protection, but I do think this guy is going to be a very efficient runner at the next level because he has, to me, the unique vision in that stop-start, where these bigger backs, a little bit longer stride, like Emory, you said earlier, this kid can stop, plant, go. Initially, when I saw him, I thought his inline vision and stuff was a little Kenny Walker without the speed. And then I was like, who are some of these short striders that were very productive runners in college? And you'll be excited about this one, Ryan. Sean Tucker when he came out of Syracuse.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's a deep cut. That's a good one. Yeah, he suffered injuries. Unfortunately, he didn't get
Yeah.
drafted, but he was a good player up until the injuries. Yeah, I don't hate
And
that.
don't be surprised if this kid doesn't end up with the Chargers. I know they signed Gus Edwards, but I can see a lot of Michigan players ending up with bolts on the side of their helmets next year.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Emory, talk about Marshawn Lloyd. He was at the Senior Bowl, had a good season for USC in what was a pretty frustrating year for the Trojans overall. And you have him second overall. Neither Rick nor I had him on the list, but he's certainly a good football player.
Yeah, he got the fluidity that I like to see in the backs. Like it's almost like you could listen to jazz and watch him run because it's just so smooth, right? And so that's how he runs to me, and that's why I compared him to Aaron Jones. They kind of just have that fluidity within their game, and I was shocked that he came and measured at 5'9", 205 because just watching him on tape and just in live viewing is like he looks like he's 5'11", 225, right? 5'10", 225. But for a guy that size, does a great job of getting in and out of his cuts. He's able to weave in and out of traffic like a New York cab and just get down the field. So I'm a big fan of his game. I just think that he's fluid. He can catch the ball in the backfield. He was a very underrated player in the country. Where everyone is talking about all these other backs, Lloyd was one of the more consistent pieces of their offense. So pass pro, obviously, with a lot of these backs are going to be a thing. And it's more so who to block. You can just get in the way for about a second or two, you're fine, but you got to know where to get in the way. But he tore his ACL in 2020, missed some time while he was at South Carolina too in 2022. So, the injury question is out there, but at USC, the real USC, I thought he did really well.
Do you have a comp for Marshawn?
Who's your comp for Marshawn?
So y'all wasn't listening when I just said Aaron Jones. Like,
yeah.
I dare you guys to reap what I just said about Marshawn Lloyd. But I do like him as Aaron Jones. He's a very Aaron Jones like player to me.
The only thing I would disagree
you're right.
on Aaron Jones, I think he is explosive. And some of the screens I saw him catch, even though they don't use him much in the passing game, he can get it now up the field and go. And I thought his speed was very good. I didn't know in between the tackles, his vision was the same as an Aaron Jones. And maybe he's almost too wound up at times where you just be a little bit more patient. You're explosive enough to get through the hole, but don't be in a hurry, if that makes sense. Because sometimes I had some vision issues when it got cloudy in the middle. But I do think he has explosive speed once he gets in space.
What's funny about that, Rick, is even on one of his highlight plays, you could see that. And it was a run against Colorado where, he kind of got into the back, of the lineman, pulling lineman, too quickly and got blown up in the backfield, but was able to reverse field,
right,
hit the sideline and score.
So if he just turns a little bit more patience, it'd help his game a lot.
So given that he's second overall on your list, Emory, I'm guessing you have him as probably a pretty early day 2 guy.
Yeah, he's right behind. Obviously, he's right behind Braylon Allen. So I would take him if you needed a back to, let's say if you're a team like Tennessee or Dallas or someone that needs a pace setter, someone that could pair up with, because they had a good committee going on at USC. Austin Jones is a back, he's gonna be a free agent, but he's a really good player. So he's used to, a lot of these backs are used to doing committee approach. So I would, if you needed a back. If you were, I don't know what the situation looks like in Minnesota right now, but I think he would be a good pick for the Vikings. If I was a GM,
Aaron Jones is,
if I was the muscular GM for the Vikings, you know what I'm saying? I probably would.
You better do some push-ups. You better hit some of those push-ups. But so yeah, I mean they do have Aaron Jones, so that makes sense. You signed him to a 1-year deal. And Rick, Blake Corum, day 2 guy, or does he have to wait till day 3 for you?
I think that they'll take him on 3rd round earliest, but see more 4th rounder in him. This kid I see as a Saturday guy all the way because of his speed.
Okay, yeah, we'll find out. I mean, 5 running backs on day 2 feels rich given how the running back market's played on free agency, but hey, we'll find out together in 44 days. So look, let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll hit some of our sleepers, and then we'll take a look at Rick's top 5 running backs in the past 5 draft classes right after this.
2 big boys getting ready to play. Big being the operative word here. And here they come.
All right, let's start with another young man that made Emory's list, Isaac Garendo out of Louisville. They had 2 running backs in that class. One was slight of frame and one was not. Garendo was not. He was 6 feet, 221, and my man busted out a 4.33 at the combine. And Rick, you'll appreciate all these numbers. His 10-yard split was 155. His vert was 41.5 inches. His broad jump was 10 feet 9 inches. His 3-cone was 6.94. I mean, what's not to like, Emory?
Listen, and here's a part, because he was former Wisconsin guy. So again, whoever that strength and conditioning coach is, they've been doing a good job with Wisconsin. So he's an explosive guy. He returned kicks. So you like that he could start on special teams. But he has good strength, but he has to add power to his game. I feel like, there's situations where he has to be able to convert that speed to power and just, fly through guys with momentum. I don't think he does that on a consistent basis. He's not an overly shifty guy. He's going to try to beat you with speed, which is fine. But everything that you touched on was in my scouting report, because I had this grade done before the combine. And my comp for him was Michael Turner. Remember Michael Turner, the burner, when he came out?
Oh, yeah.
Northern Illinois, big back with explosive speed, started as a kick returner in San Diego, and then got the feature role in Atlanta. I do feel like Garendo has that capability. He's a big back with explosive speed, and he's going to be a good pro.
Rick, did you get a chance to watch him?
Yeah, I saw 2 games on him. I'd have to go back and do them more. To me, I think he is a little bit more straight line speed guy. Sometimes I don't see the 4.3 in him. I think that he is a little bit stiffer. I don't think he drops his weight as well as Michael Turner did coming out. I thought Michael Turner was thicker through the lower, where he can drop his weight, and he had a little bit more shiftiness to him. This kid is going to who was a kid that at Indiana that came out, played for San Francisco for a little bit? Coleman, was it?
Tevin Coleman.
Yeah, the straight line speed guy that's not as shifty once he gets, but if he goes, he goes. But I thought he was a little bit more straight line and upright than a Turner.
You want to hear my comp, or should we move on?
Move on.
Robert Turbin.
Oh,
not bad.
No.
Turbo. Look at
Shout
that.
out to Turbo.
Rick?
There you go.
Shout out to Turbo. All right. So the number 5 on Emory's list was Frank Gore Jr. So you did get the Frank Gore name check that you thought that was going to come there, Rick. That did come. Shout out to Frank Gore Jr. But Emory, I want to get to your sleepers. Mine was Isaiah Davis. We just talked about him. I did like his game when I watched him prior to the combine. And Emory, your guy is Marcus Knight out of Tennessee Tech. Tell me about Marcus.
Listen, this is one of those when you just watching film and you just going through and you're like, all right, this guy's on my list next. And then you watch, you're like, wait a minute, I remember this name. And I remember this was a dude that was a lead dog at Montana. And he used to tote the rock really well. Then he played lacrosse at Montana as well. And fantastic athlete. Then he goes to Tennessee Tech, and now they're in a committee. But he reminds me a lot of Tim Hightower. He's about 6 feet, 220 pounds, good footwork, good burst, good quickness. When he was getting the ball, and again, I watched their Tennessee State game, I watched their Kennesaw State game, and their game against UT Martin, some good competition. And every time he touched the rock, he was just doing great things. So for me, this is someone, when we're talking about sleepers, obviously I'm going to go deep, but Tennessee Tech, he's going to test well. He's an athlete. Like I said, played lacrosse. This was someone that just kept popping up. I'm glad I took the time to watch him because he really impressed.
I wish I said I could watch him. I didn't get to him, so I apologize. So
yeah, we don't have Tennessee Tech tape. I mean, Emory's got all those connections. By the way, quickly before we move on, Rick, Isaac Garendo, is that a situation where you see him run, you go back and watch, or do you know who he is?
I think
If
you
you're a
may go
team.
back and watch him because everybody's going back and having their meetings, and now they have combine pro day numbers as they start coming in. You go back and hey, this guy or this guy, these are the speed guys in this cluster. Which guy has the best chance? So you go back and rewatch all these guys. I mean, it may be profile tapes on them because everybody has already done the full tape study on them, and help stack your board that way.
And maybe you move them up, whatever, half a round or whatever.
No, you don't. You move them up in their areas, and maybe one. It's not this. Maybe this running back because he ran 4.3 over, Emory's 4.7, 4.57 South Dakota.
Yeah, give him the 4.57 at least. Isaiah Davis. Right. So you're moving them within the clusters. You're not moving them irrespective of that. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Rick, your sleeper, Dylan Lobe, New Hampshire. We saw him at the combine. He was on the watch, at the Senior Bowl. And also he was at the combine as well. He was on the watch list back in the summer for both the Shrine Bowl and the Senior Bowl, and he had a fantastic season.
Yeah, the biggest thing that stuck out, I understand he's not the fastest dude. He's got really good vision. He's got really good contact balance. He's not going to, at the next level, make 60, 70-yard touchdown runs. But the thing that really stuck out the most to me, I thought he had the best hands out of any back coming out, or one of the best hands out of any back coming out. This guy caught a ton of balls out of the backfield, and he looked like a receiver when he catches the ball, and he gets it upfield. So I put him as a sleeper because I thought he is, I don't want to say not unique as a runner. He is a good runner, but I thought he had some unique receiving skills. So that's why I put him in as my sleeper.
Okay. Do you have any thoughts on him? Yeah, go ahead, Emory.
I called their game against Mama, so I got to see him in shirt and, go toe to toe. It wasn't quite Bo Jackson, Barry Sanders going toe to toe on Monday Night Football, but it was a good little matchup between the two and how they were utilized. I just like that Laube can affect the game in 4 ways: running, receiving, kickoff, and punt returner. So he's going to get on the field, and you want the ball in his hands. You have, a quartet of ways to do so. And I just think that he is a good football player more so than athlete. But we're in the business of being good football players,
He's on my good football player list.
All right, Emory, we have a rule here. I want your comp, but it can't be the same race. You got to do you can't say Danny Woodhead. So who's your comp for Dylan Lobe?
For Dylan Lobe, based off what I've seen, I would say Deion Lewis. Remember him? Pitt?
Mm-hmm, of course. Yeah.
Oh, that's a good one.
That you shifty? No, you like? Oh, God, Rick, you're the worst.
Yeah.
you love all of his comps. That is a good comp, though.
He's
all right.
He's pretty good.
He's a good player. Yeah, he's definitely getting drafted, Rick.
I think he's going to be a late round potential college free agent, but I think he's going to, as a sleeper, end up making a 53 for somebody because of the type of football player he is.
Let me ask you this. Our guy Cameron Scatabo returned to school. I think he's still at Arizona State. I don't think he transferred out. Would you rather have Scatabo or Lobe?
Oh, boy. I haven't seen – Scatabo was like I can't say it on air. He was a –
He could punt too, though. He's a 5-down player.
Yeah. He was taking direct snaps from center. You talk about a hammerhead that loves contact. That guy just seeks contact the way his run style is.
I don't think he was as fast probably as Lobe, but they're both sort of fun players. All right, we'll put Scotty on the list for next year. Lobe's coming out. I hope he gets drafted. Rick says he might. You think he gets drafted, Emory?
Nah, I think he's
really okay.
A priority free. If late round, they 3 to 7 round, things get weird. Sure,
yeah.
Because again, you talk about special teams player of the year. In addition to what he did as a receiver. And everybody still remembers the Central Michigan game. So there's a possibility, but I do feel like the speed or lack thereof will hurt him.
Yeah.
Can I ask one quick question? I know we have to get going here. The biggest difference besides size between him and your North or South Dakota State Flash, Isaac Davis.
He's more of and that's a great question. This is what I was thinking of when I was calling the game between Monmouth and New Hampshire. I felt like they were spamming him targets. I was like, I get he's a good receiver, but it felt like we got to get him touches. And he was throwing him. So, he's
the best football player on our team. We got to get him touches. Yeah.
But they had a good quarterback who transferred up. I think he transferred to Northwestern. Mac Brosmer is a name to keep an eye on. They have a really good tight end and a really good receiver. I think the tight end also transferred to FBS. I'm like, they don't have to do this, but and when they were throwing vertical down the field, they had opportunities and they were connecting on those. The game went back and forth. I was like, why are they spamming targets to Lowry? Like, Monmouth is on that, you know what I'm saying? And so I just felt like it was a situation where somebody said, hey, I led the league in rush attempts. Like, cool, you got the ball a lot. Like, you know what I mean? So I just felt like a lot of the pass catching was a little bit overblown based off what I was able to see during the live broadcast. Like, wow, they really throwing him the ball a lot.
Do you think he's not a good receiver out of the backfield?
What helps him is that he's a great downfield threat. So, yes, he's a great receiver, but if we're going to – I feel like him how I currently feel about Austin Eckler when people say, oh, he's a receiver out of the backfield. Like, bro, like, you are supposed to catch screens, flares, swings, and flats. That's the meet expectations part of the job description of the running back. Can you beat people downfield? And that's where he separates himself because they threw him out there in the slot, and he put a move on the slot defender and was wide open. The quarterback just went to the other side. I was like, okay, that's the receiver I'm looking at, as opposed to you catching a screen and spinning the ball, think you did something. You're supposed to do that. You're back.
Man, this is as hard as I've ever heard Emory be on a running back before.
Oh
and Austin Eckler catching strays too. All right, Rick. Let's end on a high note here. Let's talk about your.
According to Emory.
I know. Well, let's see. I'm willing to give Emory the benefit of the doubt until this thing starts up here. All right, let's end on a high note, Rick. Your top 10 running backs of the past 5 draft classes. Debo has it here. Man. So why don't you go through the list and you can start at the bottom or the top, whichever direction you want to go.
Yeah, I want to get Emory's opinion on my top 10. I know I don't have any of his guys, I don't think.
You got a bunch of my number ones in there.
Yeah, you got Jameer. I think Brees was your number one. Is that right?
Yeah.
The Swift was one. Okay. Swift was my one. Gibbs is my one. I forgot why I had Taylor. Najee was my one. I didn't have Williams. I had a higher grade on his teammate Michael Carter than Williams. But not a bad list though. I like that list.
Yeah, they're all pretty good.
Here, go through it, Rick, for people who are listening.
Yeah, Bijan Robinson's my number one. I just thought he was unique last year. Jonathan Taylor speaks for himself. Another Wisconsin that had a unique run style, and he carried Indianapolis since he's came and got a big deal last year when it wasn't in vogue to give running backs contracts. And last year, after everything he went through, got his big deal. Najee Harris, to me, I put him up there because I thought they always have good running backs, and they had a run of running backs that came out of Alabama. But I thought he was unique in his skill set. ETN, I liked because of the speed and the versatility to catch the ball out of the backfield, even though he's not as big as those top 3. Jahmyr Gibbs, I don't have to tell you how I felt about him because I thought he was a playmaker, not just a running back, because you can put him at all different spots. Poor man's, just like Bijan, poor man's Christian McCaffrey, if you want to put it that way. They can do more than just run the football. Loved Breece Hall coming out. I really thought that coming out of Iowa State for a big back, he was as smooth as I seen. DeAndre Swift, only issue with him was the durability, and he had struggled to stay healthy in Detroit. They ended up trading him. He had a good year in Philadelphia, but I was a little bit taken back that they didn't want to keep him after the year he had. So there must be something there because they went and got Saquon Barkley, and he wasn't in this list because it wasn't the last 5 years. And then I put
Hey, Rick, let me ask you quickly. Bijan or Saquon?
Ooh, Bijan, because I thought he's a better receiver.
Okay.
Go
ahead.
And then Jonathan Brooks, I put in there as 9th, right ahead of Javonte Williams. And I like Javonte Williams when he came out of North Carolina. And I did have him ahead of Carter because I thought Carter was more of a 2. Javonte was the real deal when he can stay healthy.
Yeah, Javonte and Breece both suffered ACLs once they got to the league. Just one of those things. One of the
I
deals
would
to play in that position.
that year, if Brees didn't tear his ACL and the way he played before he tore his ACL, I would have put my money on him being offensive rookie of the year, the way he was rolling for the New York Jets.
You know what's interesting? You know the comp I had for Brees Hall?
Who?
Curtis Martin.
Oh.
And he ended up with the Jets. How
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah. Yeah, you have the. I watched Curtis, but I don't remember anything about his workouts. Rick, you remember anything about Curtis's workouts? Was he particularly shifty?
Yeah, that you're going back in the day now. I mean,
I know, mid-90s.
Yeah, Pitt, right?
Yep, you got it.
Yep, Pitt, yep.
Yeah, and there was some. I can't remember, but I just remember sitting in draft meetings, and there were some things that came up that weren't on-field related about him, which was totally false.
Right.
But he was pretty unique with his movement skills and his vision, and why he is who he is.
By the way, Debo did some research.
And Emory, he can catch the ball out of the backfield, even though it's just checkdowns and screens and flat routes.
Yeah, Emory hates Curtis Martin. By the way, Rick, your top 3 running backs from the last recent drafts. You had Bijan, you had Saquon, and you had Nick Chubb. You did that last March, according to Debo. Your
I'm
dogs
sorry.
don't appreciate it.
Yeah, no, the dogs don't like. The dogs are really ticked off right now. My wife's chasing them around the wraparound deck around our house, telling them to shut up.
Oh, Jesus. Wraparound. He had to get the wraparound deck in there, Emory. All right, that's
right.
it.
I
That's
hear
a
the echo
wrap.
because he's in a mansion. You know what I'm saying?
I know.
Yep,
Yeah.
just a humble little LeBeau sitting, down here on an island that got blown away. Just
One shirt, one pair of pants.
Yeah, happy to rub 2 nickels together to make a dime.
Rick, you want to have your butler come into the shot and he can say hello on the way out? Or is he busy ironing your britches? All right, that's it. We're out of here. Thanks to Emory for joining us talking running backs. We'll no doubt talk to Emory as we get through this thing. 44 days until the draft, so we look forward to that. And we'll be back later this week, I believe, Rick, to talk about some mock drafts with our buddy Josh Edwards in a post-free agency world. So look for that. In the meantime, thank you guys for watching and listening and all the stuff that you do. Thanks to Rick. Thanks to Emory. Thanks to Debo for producing. We'll see you guys later this week.